These are my beautiful oil pastels that I use to do my pastel drawings, and these are tools called Color Shaper. Have no idea what they're used for, but this is what I use them for. So, of course, I first draw my sketch out using pencil, and I really should have erased that pencil a little bit, but I didn't. And it worked out just fine. So I'm doing a yellow pansy with some purple detailing on it. So I'm starting out by just filling in the color, and as you can see, I'm just really scribbling it in. Whenever I start a drawing, I always think I'm not going to be able to pull it off even after all of these years. I'm never quite sure how it's going to turn out, if it's going to turn out okay. And I'm always so pleasantly surprised that my hands actually know exactly what to do, even if my mind doesn't necessarily think I can do it. So I am using several different shades of yellow to create the dimension in my flower. So right now I'm putting in a little bit darker color at the edges, and this will make those petals pop out a little bit. And of course I can always go back and add what I need later on. Since the oil pastels are very forgiving, and you can really go back and you can even scrape off the color if you need to adjust something, and then put whatever correction you want on there. So I'm just putting all of the yellow in. I put the basic yellow color in, and now I'm going over with a lighter yellow, and I will also probably use white as well. Now, these pastels are super soft, and the colors are just spectacular. This is a little tiny piece of a color that I'm using, and it has no point on it at all, and you kind of feel like you're not going to be able to manipulate it, but it actually works just fine. So I'm working out the color now for the purple contrast, and I also sketched that in very haphazardly like this. I just kind of fill in the shapes, and once those are all filled in, I'm going to use that tool that I showed, and that tool works really great, but I still always end up having to use my fingers as well, because the tool isn't just not quite as smooth as my fingers are. So I do the preliminary smoothing with this tool, and it works really well. And what I like about it, it kind of has a sharp tip on it, so that if I want to make kind of a thinner line, I can do it with that tool. I always end up going in with my finger anyway, though, and just sort of softening it up. So here I'm smoothing all of that out, and it looks really, really nice so far. I have to clean the tip off before I go over to the yellow, because otherwise I get the purple all over the yellow. And you can really do this in whatever order you want. You can smooth out the yellow first and then go back and do the purple, but I just started with a purple because I couldn't resist, because I love purple. So I'm just smoothing out all of these petals now, and I can tell I'm going to want to put some lighter yellow in there just to accent and to make it more dimensional, I guess is the word I would use. So I love a pansy, and I actually did this drawing a really long time ago, and I thought it would make a beautiful surface design print, like on fabric or on gift wrap paper, and so here I am fulfilling a dream that I had by making this beautiful drawing, and then I'm going to put it into a software program called Canva, which you probably know all about it, and I'm going to create a surface design with it. So I'm very excited because I had this idea a really long time ago and just didn't have the means to do it. So I'm very excited about getting this done. And so I'm putting some of the details in now, and it's looking great, I think, so far. Smoothing out the yellow here. And I know I'm going to probably want to add some of that darker yellow around the edge of the petals as well to make them stand out a little more. The darker color will help to make the petals stand out, but also a lighter color on the edge of the petals will also make them stand out. Now, Pansy has little tiny darker veins, and I'm using a real dark blue there to make the veins. And same thing when I started, I thought, oh boy, how am I going to do this? These have to be really thin, but I somehow found a thin edge on this pastel, and it worked out just fine. Looked really nice. So here it is, all done. I think the purple looks really good. And putting a couple veins in the top petals there as well. And that all looks really good. Now I'm going to put a little green in the center there. Now this is my light colored pastel that I'm going to use to try to bring out the edges of the petals, and it works just beautifully, doesn't it? It really, really does a great job. So I'm pretty much heading into the finish line here. I'm adding my finishing details on. Once I get all the color on there and I get everything blended, right away, I don't know how to describe it, but a thought will come to me. Put something darker here or put something lighter here. Right away, I know what to do to sort of finish up the drawing. So here I'm putting in more of the darker yellow to create a little bit more contrast. I just wanted it to have a little more contrast. So I'm putting that in, and then I will smooth that out. And I will probably also just add a little bit more to the edges of the lighter edges of the petals to make those stand out a little bit more. I think it's always easiest to put in all of the sort of preliminary color first and then go in and sort of, perfect it a little bit more, because until you have the color in there, you really can't tell where you need to add lighter or darker color. So, and sometimes you don't actually need to add anything, but I'm loving the way that this is turning out. I'm really happy with it. So I'm adding a little white on the edges there just to make that stand out. Really does a great job, doesn't it? And of course, these pastels are just so incredibly great to work with. I just love them. So I did end up putting these into Canva, and I created a couple of designs that are coming up right now to show you how I put these together, and that was another little pansy that I did too. And I love the way they look. So see you next week.